Globalization and Transnational Mobility. Dr. Marquita Walker, Department of Labor Studies, IUPUI. Is there a transnational capitalist class? The term transnational has come to refer to people, organizations, and institutions that routinely cross borders, whose agendas and loyalties do not derive from affiliation to a single state. This transnational capital class see their own interests and identities as tied to a capitalist global system and not to a specific region. This class thrives on fluidity and considers themselves expatriates and not migrants. Migrant, with its somewhat negative connotation, is shunned by those invested in a transnational capitalist class. This perspective is shared by certain groups of people who believe they fit into the category of transnationals, but it is not shared by all people affected by globalization. So let's place these groups into two camps: those who identify with and are helped by globalization, and those who are not helped by globalization. The transnational capitalist class consists of corporate executives, globalizing bureaucrats and politicians, globalizing professionals, and consumer elites. These individuals either own or are employed by multinational companies and promote consumerist ideologies and free market expansion. To explain the transnational capitalist class, we can use global systems theory, which helps us separate the theory from the reality. Global systems theory is based on the assumption that though multinational companies drive globalization, there are some transnational actors who participate in multinational corporations as owners or employees and may not necessarily be happy about their positions. Though highly educated and skilled, mostly white, and having Western credentials, these professionals often find living away from their families takes a social toll which they are not willing to forego. These elite professionals must often engage in the Pacific Shuttle when returning to their astronaut families periodically. This family arrangement contributes to stress and often leads to the breakup of the family. Defining and measuring highly skilled migration. There is difficulty in measuring just what we mean by the terms highly skilled and migration. Individuals credentialed in one country might not be considered credentialed in another country. Nation-states have the ability to construct immigration systems and quotas based on credentials which will benefit the host nation, so there isn't a drain on local resources. There currently exist three conceptual bases for defining highly skilled migration: the migrant, the state, and the employer. Migrants are considered to have some agency in determining their desire for opportunity and advancement somewhere other than their country of origin. The state takes into consideration the benefits to their economy and the employability and mobility of the migrant. The employer looks at the prerequisites for the available jobs and costs of relocation. Expatriate lifestyles, whiteness, and diversity in transnational workspaces. There is some disjuncture between the way expatriates and locals live. The privileged lifestyle associated with whiteness from the global north manifests itself in the high salaries, benefit packages, and status provided by multinational companies to expatriates. These elites tend not to adapt to the host country's language or lifestyle because they reside in exclusive neighborhoods, send their children to private schools, and belong to exclusive clubs. The host country wants them to feel at home. The class advantage they enjoyed in their home countries transcends across borders. Their lifestyles reflect the global patterns of consumerism which their positions promote. Transnational employment in global cities. Global cities are characterized by niche markets of banking, finance, engineering, media, and retail, so they attract not only high-wage, high-tech, and high-skilled labor, but also a network of low-wage labor necessary to man the hospitality industry necessary for support of these industries. The expatriates who move to these financial hubs tend to create upscale neighborhoods in which they are insulated from middle and lower class residents. The migrant labor, usually women and ethnic minorities, who move to these financial hubs for work also create lower income neighborhoods. The advantages of these spaces created by these two groups allow for each group's social interactions outside of work, which in turn consolidates into influential networks and provides leisure-oriented social spaces. The downside to these spaces is the inequality it creates within a city. Sasson calls this the geographies of centrality, spaces which are branded by cities as attractive locations for professionals to live and work, draw foreign direct investment, and invite tourism. Transnational expatriates often are described as inclined toward mobility because they are less rooted to a location, have the ability to listen, absorb other cultures, and intuit and reflect on their situations. They seem to be able to transcend geographic mobility and have coined the phrase openness toward difference to describe themselves. Bieberstock describes these people as frequent travelers, while Thoré describes them as home plus individuals because they view travel and living in another country as their country of origin plus son or servants. Though the technical expertise of expatriates requires English, in many instances it may not necessarily encourage integration of cultural differences in or outside of workplace situations. Some studies suggest that expatriates live in a bubble and make little effort to burst that bubble. Some expatriates prefer to remain inside the segregated work and social spheres they create, and where they engage with like-minded people within exclusive clubs and neighborhoods.